Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We had started off with Babul Imamah, or the chapter speaking about the person who should lead the Salah. And we had started off and gone into quite a bit of detail, and we mentioned some of the conditions, and we also mentioned if there's people who have a dispute as to who should lead the Salah, we mentioned the different categories we use or the different criteria set out to decide who will lead the Salah. Thereafter, they start telling you that there's some people who it's makruh or disliked for them to lead the Salah. First example they give you, most of it is not applicable today, but they say that an Arabi is generally people from the rural areas, the rural Bedouins, and they say a slave. Why is that? If you look at the reasoning for it, they said that because they were generally far away from education. So it was prevailing, or the majority of them were uneducated, and they didn't have understanding when it came to the deen. That was that time there. As for today's time, we find that there's no slaves. And when it comes to Arabi, or when it comes to Bedouins, you find that generally the level of education amongst the people, regardless of where they are, whether they're in the cities or the towns or the rural areas, they've generally got somebody knowledgeable enough to lead the Salah. So what we could say when it comes to this is a person who is ignorant, okay? A person who is ignorant, uh, they shouldn't be leading the Salah. Now, ignorance can be divided into two. We can say ignorant, which means completely where they don't know about the Salah. Even what's compulsory in the Salah, they don't know about it. They don't know how to perform it. For example, let's say the Imam cannot, does not know how to make ruku, does not know how many rak'at in Salah, etc. Here, this person should never be leading the Salah. And then you've got that type of ignorance, which is they've got just enough, but they're not as knowledgeable. So here we would say that uh, it's disliked for this type of person to lead the Salah. If, for example, let's say you had a group of 10 people and all of them are all lay people, and roughly uh, they all what we could term Islamically that they're not as knowledgeable, we would see the most knowledgeable from amongst them and they would lead the Salah. So we'll go back to the previous lesson. So that's generally what gathers these. Then number two is they say al-fasiq. Okay. Fasiq or fisq. The word fisq is referring to a person who has come out of the obedience of Allah. Okay. And there's different types of fisq. But what we would say here is that a person who is known to be a fasiq, a sinner openly, for example, let's say somebody is known in the community to do a certain sin when it comes to them being, for example, open eater of interest, or them being, I don't know, for example, somebody who purposely lets their garment go below the ankle and wears chains and rings and doesn't keep a beard and all those things. We would say that those are signs of fisk, and this person is disliked for them to lead the salah. Makruh, they shouldn't be leading the salah. If they had to, including a person who's jahil, if they had to, and they know at least the bare minimum of salah, the salah will still be correct. And let's say there's a group of them. So, for example, let's say 5 people go out on a trip, and all of them, uh, they all wear chains, they all into smoking, they all into all these habits. And the time of salah comes. Here we won't say, as long as there's somebody who knows how to lead the salah, here we won't say that read salah alone because none of you are fit to lead the salah. No, we'll say that the best from amongst you will lead the salah. However, this is talking about, for example, person who's more practicing being led by a fasiq. Okay, so that's two. And then number three, they mention that it's disliked for a blind person to lead the salah. And one of the reasons they mention is because he's unable to see the najasa. So he's unable to see if any impurity or anything comes onto his body. Obviously, this can be debated. Let's say there's somebody to look after him, etc. You do find some people who are blind leading the salah, but generally they tell you if the reason is present, then salah is definitely makruh behind him. And then number 4, they mention waladu zina. So a child that was born through uh, a child whose parents were not married and they were born. So through an affair, etc. So say this person, it's disliked for them to lead the salah. Okay, that's what you find in the books. However, if any of these people had to lead the salah, as long as they know the basics of salah and the bare minimum, salah behind them would still be correct. Remember, here we're talking about leading the salah. Thereafter, we move on to a very, very, very important mas'ala in Kitab al-Salah, which is how long or how short the salah should be. And they say that when it comes to prolonging the salah, it is disliked, in fact, highly discouraged for the imam to prolong the salah more than what was the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And if you look at it, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam became very, very, very angry with Mu'adh radiallahu anhu when he used to go to the nearby village and prolong the salah. And that was, imagine, it's salah, performing for the sake of Allah, yet it was a reason for people to dislike the religion. And the Messenger ﷺ asked him, he says, Afattanun anta ya Mu'adh? Is somebody who wants to cause fitna, O Mu'adh. So when you, the Imam, bear in mind that those behind you, you've got behind you those who are weak, those who are old, those who are busy, those who are young, those who have children, etc. Don't prolong the salah. And in the same breath, don't read in such a way that you read so fast that the rules of salah you don't adhere to. Okay? What do you do? Follow the sunnah. Then it's mentioned that there's some guidelines when it comes to what a person should read. Okay? So there's something called tiwal. Okay? Tiwal mufassal. And then you got awsat. There's a alif and there's a ta. Then you got qisar. Okay? So this is from Surah Hujurat. Okay, some people have a slightly different, but we'll go with what's in the book. Surah Hujurat up to Al-Buruj. Okay? Tiwal meaning from long. So these are generally longer surahs. Then Awsat from Wasat, middle. These surahs are not too long, not too short. So that's from Al-Buruj. Okay? Up to Lam yakun alladhina. Okay? Lam yakun. And then you got Qisar is from Lam yakun alladhina till the end. Okay? Up to the end. Now, if you look at it, generally the salah, which is prolonged a bit more than others, which is the Fajr and the Dhuhr. Okay. So you got Fajr and Dhuhr. It's generally recommended to read them a little bit longer. That's why it's mentioned the same hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was telling Mu'adh, don't prolong the salah. He said, read from these shorter surahs. This doesn't mean that a person, for example, if they're reading from Surah Al-Baqarah or Al-Imran, they can't read, for example. No, just look at the measurement. So, for example, in the Tiwal, you would find that there's, for example, Surah Al-Hujurat itself. A person can read Surah Al-Hujurat is 2-3 pages long, depending on which Mus'haf or which Quran you're looking in. And then Awsat, you've got from Al-Buruj to لم يكن الذين is roughly a page maximum, the surah. That's how long it is. قصار is short, like إنا أعطيناك الكوثر قل يا أيها الكافرون, etc. So Fajr and Dhuhr, a little bit longer. And then Asr and Isha, medium. And Maghrib is generally short. So they're saying, stick to this measurement when it comes to leading the Salah. Then another important thing to mention, not all Imams read at the same pace. The Messenger ﷺ did not have takalluf when it came to his recitation. He didn't pull and prolong and repeat the ayat when he was leading the Salah. Repeating the ayat or going over the same ayah was in nafil salah at night when there wasn't anyone there, or one or two people were reading behind him. As for when he was leading the fard salah, he didn't prolong the salah. And sometimes people, even in major masajid, you find that this is an issue where the imams at times don't understand. It's not to do with how good a person's voice is, etc. When you're leading hundreds and thousands of people, keep the salah to how the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam led. There's no need for takalluf, and there's no need to punish the people behind you. And only when you're an imam, or in fact, only when you are ma'mum, somebody reading behind imams who prolong the salah, will you understand this masala. So this is something to bear in mind and to understand, especially if you're an imam. Thereafter, he comes, or they move on to Salah in congregation for women. So Jama'atun Nisa. Okay. This is the Hanafi madhab. The Hanafi madhab say it's disliked. Some of them say karaha tahrim, which is severely disliked for women to make their own jama'ah. Okay, it's a Hanafi madhab. Say severely disliked for women to make their own jama'ah. And if they had to, then uh, they shouldn't stand like the men, rather the woman. For example, let's just imagine that this is a masjid. Okay, generally with the men you find the imam is there in the front and then the line is behind, so the next line they're standing here all behind him. They say as for the women, let's say this is the place they are leading. It says that in the same line, the woman who's leading the salah should stand in the middle. Some say a little bit ahead of the rest, some say in line of the rest. So the Hanafi madhab is severely disliked for the women to make a jama'ah. Obviously, there'll be different opinions in the madhab itself as well as the other madhahib. But if they had to, that's how they read. And then, whilst they're speaking about the standing of the saf or organizing the saf, they tell you, as I told you, for the men, one person, and then you've got the jama'ah behind. In case the men are only two, okay? The men are only two, you find that the imam will stand here, and the one with him will stand on his right. Some say slightly behind, okay? So for example, if I'm leading and someone with me, only one person on my right, it'll just be a little bit behind me on my right. If there's two people, then we put the imam in the front and then we put the two at the back, okay? Meaning two at the back, one will be right behind, one will be behind the imam on the right. And if there's three, then like that, and then four. And then also what's important to mention is that balancing the saf, okay, and also starting the saf in the correct way. As long as there's no exceptional circumstance, it's recommended for the people to start behind the imam, then balance the saf right and left. You find some people come to the masjid, the imam is there, and they start the line from this corner here and this corner here, and this guy is reading here. No, start from behind the imam and balance the saf, especially if there's no extraordinary circumstance. Thereafter, they move on to, there's certain people who men are not allowed to lead the salah behind them. Okay, So as for a man, it's not permissible for him to read Salah behind an imam who is firstly a child. So you find somebody who's 3, 4 years old, even if they can read nicely, if they want, they can lead the Salah with other children of similar age. But a grown man is not allowed to read Salah behind a child. That's one. Two is grown man is not allowed to read Salah behind a woman. Okay. And three is they mention hermaphrodite or somebody who is in those days there they mention it. You find people who when they were born they were unable to uh, differentiate whether they are male or female. It's from the very beginning. So normal man is not allowed to lead salah behind these people. They call them khuntha. Okay. And then after that, inshallah, tomorrow, they move on to how the sufuf should be made. So, for example, let's say you got men, women, and children. Where should everyone stand? Let's say it's a masjid. Here's the imam. How should the men stand, and then the women, and then the children, or how should it be? And inshallah, we'll go through that tomorrow. Any questions with